Okay, for those of you watching the archived version, welcome. I'm just pulling up Patreon so I can actually make the post, so you'll have to excuse me. Internet is slow right here. Okay, there we go. Okay, 1 second. Hello, Shannon. Hello. Hello, Jason. Hello, Scott. Behind me is a Japanese maple tree, so the leaves always come in kind of reddish looking. But actually, it actually feels like spring right now because the weather is like 70 degrees here, which is really, really nice. How's everybody doing? I'm wondering if we'll have how much people will have turning out for this stream because it was kind of a last minute thing. Yeah, seriously, best June day. Is the weather down there pretty good too? Recently, it's been nice and cool in Ohio, and like it's even been cold at night. Like it dropped down to the 50s, I think. Jason says, nice, I have a small Japanese maple in my front yard. Yeah, they're really nice trees. Hello, Dan, welcome. Yeah, it's just way too nice to be stuck inside for a live stream, so it's like perfect weather. Hello, Dennis, welcome. We're about 80 degrees. Okay, yeah, that's not too bad. 80, like low 80s is still pretty nice. Dan says, beautiful here, but rain on the way. In Cincinnati. So we'll probably get some rain in Columbus later. I heard we might have some tomorrow, actually. But how's everybody doing? It's weird. It says there's only 3 people watching, but there's definitely more than 3 people in the chat. Shannon says, it's been unusually cool in Georgia. Reminds me of summers when I lived in Michigan. Wow. I wonder if there are like storms somewhere or something, or if it's just, I don't know. I'm just curious what kind of larger climate pattern is influencing this, or larger weather pattern. Also, can everybody hear me okay? There's like a distant lawnmower and it's kind of loud, or maybe it's a leaf blower. Scott says, we're going to conquer Russell, Spence Fields, and Rocky Top and Abrams Falls in the Smokies this weekend. Oh, nice. I was actually near Abrams Falls recently with some friends, but we weren't really like hiking that much. It was only for a couple nights. Okay, that's good to know that the sound is good. Jason says, good, thanks. We had a few days hot spell in Vancouver of almost 30 Celsius cooler today, so nice. Yeah, 30s is a lot for Vancouver, I feel like. Isn't that like in the mid 80s or something? I think so. Yeah, it's 86 degrees Fahrenheit. So right now the episode is like very nearly done. The only problem is Thomas doesn't have the good microphone he usually uses to record narration with him because he's in Texas. So we might not release it as soon as we thought, but it'll probably be out by like, I don't know, probably by Monday or something. I'm hoping we can get it rendered tonight, but that kind of depends on a lot of things. More realistically, we'll have it rendering tomorrow night. Thomas is down there, I think, through early or mid-August. And we were thinking of going to do a trip in Big Bend, but all of us kind of realized like it's going to be way too hot in the middle of the summer. So we're actually going to meet online tomorrow and try and discuss what our next trip might be. Jason says, yes, the hot weather seems to come earlier than the last few years, even before the official start of summer. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I just feel like we would just be roasting in our tents, like 4 rotisserie chickens in a tent. Although actually, I probably wouldn't even sleep in a tent at that point, but I don't know what I would do. But yeah, the upcoming episode is going to be awesome. I think you're all going to like it. It's just like a really long journey. It's a 3-night trip, so it's longer than our usual like weekend long trips, and lots of cool different landscapes and environments. But yeah, so narration is pretty much all that's left. The credits, I think, are all in. Oh, we also have to film shoutouts, which me and Bryan are probably going to do that tonight. Thank you, Jason. Yeah, so the songs, Robby composed most of the songs, but a lot of it is based off of a theme that I had come up with so that we could have like a recurring theme throughout the episode. Especially with like bigger episodes, we usually like to do stuff like that. Just have a theme that recurs. So that's pretty fun. I was actually, when I came up with the theme song, I was like listening to different songs on YouTube for inspiration. And then I just recorded myself humming something on the phone. And it kind of sounded silly at the time, but it ended up working out really well once it translated into an actual song. But yeah, and then once this episode is done, we're probably going to start working on the next episode. I'm hoping to get started on that this upcoming week, because then we can get a bit of a head start on it. The last week of June, I'm actually going to be out of town because I'm actually doing this like Kung Fu workshop. So I won't be near my computer, unfortunately. But hello, Tessa, welcome. But yeah, the latest trip we took, some of you probably saw it in the weekly update, but we went to Allegheny National Forest, but it was a different trail. And I mean, I didn't show any pictures that were too revealing, but there were some spots on the trail that were just super cool. And also besides that, I mean, I think some of the stuff we did at the campsites were fun, and all around it was just a nice, relaxing trip. And I think that'll come through in the episode. You know, I feel like it's kind of nice, like, to have that variety in episodes. Like Grayson Highlands will really feel like more of an epic adventure, and then this one will feel a little more laid back and relaxing. But yeah, let's see. Jason says it's fun to hear how inspiration finds you guys in songwriting. Yeah. It's always a fun process, and like it can be frustrating sometimes, but sometimes it's really nice to it's really nice to just be able to like get a flow going. And like sometimes you write a song and you just have something that you really love, and then being able to collaborate with each other is also really nice, because there's other times where you start writing a song and you kind of get stuck. Like you started out really strongly, but then you don't know what else to do. So then you can just send it to someone else and like have them work on it. Yes, first mention of Kung Fu lasted 9 minutes. I don't know why I'm so obsessed with it. I feel like I'm kind of wondering how long this obsession will last, because I was thinking today, like the last time I felt really obsessed with stuff was with like bushcraft stuff, but in particular, I was really into knives. And I remember I would just like browse online on Amazon for different knives, like outdoorsy style knives. But I only ever ended up buying like 2 knives. I always saw posts of people who had like 10 or 15 or 20 knives in their collection. And as fun as that sounded, I had 2 knives and I was like, this is all I need. I guess now I have more than that, but not that much more. But yeah, the Kung Fu thing, it just like, it's been on my mind so much, and I don't know if I'm ever gonna, it's just like, part of me is worried that this obsession won't last, but also part of me is thinking like, how do I get this obsessed with the other parts of my life that I'm also kind of interested in, but have kind of taken the back burner in my mind recently. Shannon Glenn says, who does the artwork for your album covers for your soundtracks? So I actually do those. Originally, we were kind of basing it off of like the logo art for Final Fantasy, because they always have these like colorful patterns on a white background. Now it's kind of taken a life of its own, but yeah, I'm usually the one who does those. Speaking of which, I need to work on the postcard for the Shawnee State Forest episode. I'll probably do that once we're done with this episode. Yeah, that GIF, there's going to be a few Kung Fu scenes in this upcoming episode, just because I have to force my interest on everybody else. But also, like, you know, if you're in the forest, that's like the ideal place to be practicing Kung Fu. Scott Neverdusky says, I picture an older Andrew on his porch in the woods practicing Kung Fu every morning in retirement. Yeah, I could definitely see myself taking up some Tai Chi when I get older. Tessa Banks says, sadly, I now know exactly how you guys felt after the calamity a couple weeks ago. Oh, no. My $1,000 camera and favorite telephoto lens took a nosedive into a waterfall. Oh, geez. So did you retrieve them, or were they completely gone? Either way, that really sucks. Were you like trying to take a picture over the waterfall or something? Yeah, it's always unfortunate with stuff like that, especially not just because it's like so expensive, but also because like sometimes even if you can repair the damage, the costs of repairing it are often almost as much as like just replacing it completely. Dived in afterwards, but not in time. That sucks. Yeah, I really want to do another canoe trip, but like all of us still have a little bit of like trepidation about that. But I actually have a really big waterproof bag, and I don't know why I didn't bring it last time, but hopefully we can go up to Canada again and do another canoeing episode, because there's a nice little provincial park that's not too far of a drive. Oh, Shenandoah National Park. Huh. You know, I still want to go back to Shenandoah and do another episode there. I'm curious what part of it was, though. Because whenever I've been to Shenandoah, it's always just been in kind of like a nondescript foresty area. But I feel like there's just so many cool places I'm probably missing. Yeah, that's a good idea, getting it insured. So how is everybody's day? Does anyone else have any weird obsessions or hobbies they've been into recently? I'm kind of like, I'm still trying to make myself cultivate that same sort of obsession with other hobbies, because I really want to read a lot more nonfiction books. One of my other goals for this year was to start learning Mandarin Chinese, and I haven't really started on that one yet, but I have State Farm and they'll cover everything. Already tested it with my gimbal that lost a battle to a rock. Ooh, that's rough. Yeah, those gimbals, I would be really afraid of those gimbals getting sand inside of them. Because back when we had the manual Steadicam, like the one that was non-electric, I took it out to Great Sandins National Park for the Find Your Park video that we did a few years ago. And the wind was just picking up all the sand and blowing it all through the air. And it just got all up in the little like ball bearing joints and stuff, and I couldn't use the Steadicam for the rest of it. I saw Brian's Instagram. Props to you for making those cheese crisps. Ridicule be damned. Yeah, I mean, that's like a real thing. Like people will take cheese and melt it like that. Like people bake Parmesan and stuff. It's pretty much the same idea. Also, it's delicious. Tessa Banks says, I'll look into State Farm because Geico only covers water damage if a pipe bursts in my condo. Yeah, you know, the cheese crisp thing, like, I think there's a lot of foods that, like, there's a lot of foods that are delicious, but were probably created out of like some form of desperation or something. Like, I feel like a lot of the best foods are foods that originated from like poor working people or peasants, like rice porridge, Chinese congee. Like, think of a gyro. Like, you're taking like a salad and meat and you're putting into bread, and I feel like that's like something that the ancient Greek equivalent of a college student would do. Like, when you're just scrounging around for ingredients and you're like, well, I'll just put like this stuff into a tortilla and eat it that way. But then it ends up becoming this really delicious food item. Jason says, I'm really into music, so I've been collecting lots of box sets and stuff. Just got a new King Crimson box set. King Crimson. Oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah, I should get more into music. I really love music, and like there are definitely moments in my life where I listen to music and I'm just like really feeling it. But for some reason, I don't know, I haven't really like followed a band in a long time. I just kind of like hear certain songs that I enjoy and then add them to this random playlist I have on YouTube. But I'm really bad about like actually exploring those artists. Apparently a lot of people use Spotify for that though. Shannon says, have you heard of Swago waterproof backpacks? I don't think I have. I'm going to look it up now. I don't think I have, but I feel like I've seen, well, no, actually, I haven't really ever seen anything like that. That's really cool. Interesting. Yeah, that'd be useful for canoeing and stuff for sure. Although I wonder how much you could actually put in there, because I feel like it might get pretty bulky or heavy if they had really big ones. Is it made of like a hard material? Yeah, I noticed it was for caving. That's really cool. I still would love to do a backpacking trip where like we backpack to a cave and then sleep in the cave one night. I know somebody who does a lot of caving and they've slept in caves before. They said it's a miserable experience, but it would definitely be really cool and fun to watch. Oh, rubber, that makes sense. Yeah, I guess the music finds me. That's a good way of putting it. So WWAD, we were walking down a gorge, and on the left was a rock house with 2 black bear cubs inside. Whoa, no mama bear in sight. Must pass within 20 feet. Do you continue down the trail? Oh, I don't think I would. I think I would like pause, make some noise, and wait till I saw the bears actually leave, at the very least. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, is the trail like... Well, even if I was going to ask, is the trail blocked off by a lot of rocks, like from the rock house? But even then, I feel like bears are actually pretty nimble. So I don't know. I would probably stop in my tracks, make some noise, and wait to see if the bears left. Did you actually? Is that something you encountered? Sheer rock on both sides. Ooh. Scott, is that like are you filming one of those Bear Grylls adventures like on Netflix? Made noise, but they looked at us. So you never saw a mama bear? That's really interesting. Did you end up going or like keep hiking? Also, was this on a backpacking trip or just like a day hike? Because that kind of changes things. Like if you're backpacking, then you kind of have to keep going at some point. But if you're day hiking, you can just turn back and then drive to another trail or something. The Thrack era. So is this one of those progressive rock bands where they've had like different people in the band as it evolved, or no? Because Thrack sounds like somebody's name or something. Scott says, nope, we slowly went by them, keeping an eye on them the whole time. It was a day hike, but a loop. We were stubborn to finish halfway through. Honey Creek Loop. Okay, I see. Yeah, I've told this story before, but there was one time when I was in the Smokies, and so the trail was kind of on this like sloped hillside, and it kind of turned around the hill. So at one point, the trail just disappears behind this hill, basically. And we saw a black bear, and then it just kind of like followed the trail behind the hill. And the problem was that there was no way of knowing if the bear was still on the trail or if it had wandered away without actually turning that same corner, which would put you a lot closer to the bear. So at the time, I just kind of like stopped and made some noise and waited for a while, and eventually like slowly crept towards that corner, and it was gone by then. But yeah, it's always a little scary when like you can't tell where the bear is going, but at the same time, usually they want nothing to do with you. And if you make noise and let them know you're there, it'll be fine. King Crimson has had many lineup changes of the year. This year is their 50th anniversary. Oh, wow. Oh, Thrak is an album title. Okay, that makes a lot more sense, actually. Robert Fripp is who founded and still runs King Crimson. Gotcha. Progressive rock is actually really cool. I don't know, like for some reason, I don't listen to it a lot, but usually when I hear it, I enjoy it. I guess it's not like my first go-to music genre, but it's still pretty enjoyable to me. So you've been into music, Jason. Do you also play any music? I've been listening to a Kung Fu podcast, and apparently one of the hosts also plays guitar a lot. But prog rock is involved listening. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. You really have to like. Yeah, that's actually a really good way to put it, because I feel like a lot of the music I like is more ambient and like kind of background music. Obviously, it depends on what mood I'm in. Sometimes I really want to just fully immerse in the music, but sometimes I just like music that kind of adds to the atmosphere of things. I play guitar very poorly, but enjoy making a noise. That is really fun. Scott Neverdusky says, I think you guys would like the Honey Creek Trail. Get to go between and under huge rocks several times. Nice dark spaces with spiders and creepy crawlers. Well, the first part sounded cool, but you lost me with the spiders. But actually, on the trail we just did recently, it kind of had some big rocky areas like that too. Not a whole lot, but there was one really cool area. But you'll see that eventually. Robert Fripp's Soundscape series. Ooh, that sounds good. I'll look that up. Yeah, I've always thought about if I were going to pick up another instrument. Well, I'd like to get way better at flute than I am, but whatever. But if I were going to learn an entirely new instrument, I think I would actually enjoy learning bass. Or maybe, I don't know, I think the idea of playing bass is really cool. Like, for some reason, the bass guitar has always seemed like a really cool, sultry instrument to me. Scott says, I think I had about 10 spiders on me to politely relocate after one rock crawl. Wow. Jeez. Were they like big spiders? Earlier today, I had like a tiny spider dangling from my glasses that I only noticed after like moving my head around. So I just kind of grabbed it and put it somewhere else. I will say, like, daddy long legs don't really bother me anymore. Like, I probably told this story too, but when I was solo hiking in the Smokies, I was staying in a tarp, and all these daddy long legs kept trying to crawl underneath. And eventually I was just like, okay, I'm going to get over my fear of them and just like grab them by the leg and kind of put them back outside. Ooh, wolf spiders. That's a little freaky. You had a small spider on your glasses too. That's funny. Actually, speaking of spiders and glasses, I've realized that, like, glasses can be a hindrance sometimes when you're hiking, especially when it's, like, raining and they get all fogged up. But they also are a natural windshield against bugs. Like, I think Robby has gotten bugs in his eyes, like, multiple times, and I've had to, like, pluck them out for him. but I've never had that problem, and I think it's just because I wear glasses, so like things don't fly right into there. There was one time the four of us were backpacking in a metro park in Ohio, and this was when we were not filming. That was the trip we took last year, just to kind of like wind down and remember what we enjoyed about each other's company. And there was one part where Robby got a bug stuck in his eye, and he turns to Thomas and he's like, "Can you get this out of my eye?" And Thomas is just like, "I don't know if I feel comfortable with that." And it was kind of funny, but I mean, I think Thomas more meant like he was worried he was gonna like mess it up, and I don't know, he didn't want to like touch Robby's eye or something and like mess something up. But it was just kind of funny how he just like refused to do it. So I had to pick whatever bug was in there out. Daddy Longlegs are your friend. They eat they eat mosquitoes and flies? I didn't know that. If Daddy Longlegs eat mosquitoes, then I am totally okay with them. I mean, I've never, like, they don't bother me that much. I just don't want them crawling into my stuff, so I'll just, like, kind of pick them and gently place them somewhere else. A spider magnet. Shannon Glenn says, too funny. My husband had a spider dangling from his glasses this week. Wow, that's so weird. Maybe that's just a more common problem than we realize. Wife made me go first at knife point. That's the way to do it. Just have somebody hike in front of you so they get all the flies and bugs. Of course, we have our little stick strategy where if it's really thick, we'll have the first person carrying a stick and just like waving it around to get rid of any cobwebs. But like, man, I would freak out if I got one of those orb weavers on me. Like, they're harmless, but they're so fat and round and big, they just kind of seem really scary. Ooh, a lot of dragonflies. Dragonflies are super pretty. I feel like I've seen a few too, although not recently. Yeah, you're probably right. They do eat a lot of bugs. I've heard possums are also animals that eat, like, I don't know if they eat ticks or if they eat things that carry ticks, but supposedly they're really good for that. Snakes too, I guess. What was I about to say? I forget. Something about spiders, I think. Oh yeah, it's funny that, like, to me, a crab or a lobster looks really delicious, but like a tarantula does not. Like, I don't know why, but you know, actually, it's probably because of the way they move. Because lobsters and crabs kind of move clumsily and like bumble around in the ocean, whereas spiders are just like really fast. Although Thomas has mentioned that he kind of thinks crabs are gross looking because they resemble spiders, but you know, I feel like I could get into eating tarantula. If I were in a place where they eat that regularly and like somebody deep fried one or something, I could totally chow down on one. Just a land crab. I saw a video one time where they took a bunch of tarantulas that were cooked and they kind of like mashed it into a paste, which sounds kind of gross, but I would also probably try that. Crabs are too delicious to make me be turned off by how they look. Yeah, that's a good point. And I guess like something about them being bigger and like, I don't know, maybe it's because they're not fuzzy or something. I think it's mostly how they move though, because like a lot of bugs that we find non-threatening just kind of like bumble around, and like fireflies are kind of slow and they'll just like fly off of you really easily. Butterflies are pretty, but they also like not constantly buzzing around you. But yeah, I don't know. I really love squid and octopus, but I feel like I should stop eating those because those are supposedly like really intelligent creatures. I've actually thought about going vegetarian again, but I haven't committed to that yet. Although I will say I've considered doing an episode where I force everybody to eat an all vegetarian meal the entire time, just to like see how it works, and you know, just to kind of explore like different diet restrictions for when you're actually camping, because that's actually something really interesting to me, is like how can you fit your diet restriction into a backpacking food where you have to have stuff that doesn't perish on the trail. I had calamari last night. Oops. Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, calamari is delicious. I would eat calamari in an instant. But I mean, I think ultimately what really matters is just like reducing consumption more than outright stopping it altogether. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I'm just like I should be vegetarian. Yeah, calamari. There's like a Chinese dish where they deep fry food in a certain way, and it's got like black pepper and jalapeno on it. It's so delicious. But they do it with like squid and pork and stuff. But that's what calamari makes me think of. It's like that same crispiness. I guess today is also a shorter stream or a smaller stream because this is at 4:30 p.m. and like most people are probably just getting off of work right now, so that probably doesn't help. I enjoy vegetarian dishes too. Not all the time. Not all about the meat all the time. Yeah. I think that's the thing. Is like when I was vegetarian, people would say I was a picky eater, and I was like, well, I feel like I have to actually be less picky because I am vegetarian. Like it's easier to be vegetarian when you're not a picky eater because then you're open to more options. Of course, I don't think anybody would ever call me a picky eater nowadays, but at least if they knew me well enough. But I had tofurkey recently, and I realized that is basically just this type of tofu that Chinese people eat all the time. And I didn't realize it was basically the same thing. I think it translates to dry tofu, but Shannon says, so there was a bear spotted near my neighborhood this week. I live in a house, but near very busy streets, malls, etc. It was near the Kroger parking lot. Wow. And spotted again near the post office. What like general region do you live in, or what state? Because I feel like I live in a part of Ohio where, like on the borders of Ohio, especially the southeastern borders, you'll occasionally have black bear sightings, but in general, bears are not an issue in Ohio. Oh, right, Georgia. Okay, so are you like near the Appalachians? Because that kind of makes sense, I guess. But that's still surprising that they would be near like a busy street in a Kroger parking lot. Tessa Banks says, working from home today, or I would have missed the stream. Any more news on when the new episode posts? Yeah, Tessa, so it's very nearly done. We just have to film some shout-outs tonight, which is what I'll be doing when Bryan gets home. And we have to put in some narration. Unfortunately, the narration might put off our rendering by one day because, well, Thomas doesn't have the usual microphone that he records with, and we just want to make sure whatever quality of recording he has is going to be good enough. So, I don't know. We'll have to figure something out with that. But it should be really soon when it comes out. Hopefully before the weekend is over, but if not, early, like as soon as the next week starts. But it's going to be well worth it, I think. It's a good episode. Near the Chattahoochee River, south of the AT. Oh, okay, I see. So... It's interesting. Speaking of Appalachian Trail, I still really want to do a hike out there sometime. I was talking to somebody about options for backpacking through Iceland, and like, I haven't done enough research, but I don't know for sure if you can actually like camp out there. I'm sure you can somewhere. I mean, it's Iceland. But they were also talking about how a lot of times they'll have cabins and stuff that you can hike to, which would be really cool. And apparently, like, pools are a big thing in Iceland. I think they have like ice pools and also hot pools that you can get in, and everybody loves to do that. But yeah, that's another thing the crew is going to talk about this Saturday is if it's even feasible to try and do Iceland this year, because that's something we've talked about for like the past 2 years. But it's just obviously a big trip that would take a lot of planning and a lot of resources and stuff. But yeah. Tessa Banks is looking forward to it. Grayson Highlands is my second favorite spot for backpacking in Virginia. Oh, okay, so you're familiar with it. Wow, so you actually like Shenandoah National Park more than Grayson Highlands. See, that tells me that we're definitely missing out on a lot of good places to go in Shenandoah, because both of the times we were there, we never really saw anything like super spectacular. I mean, that's because the first time we went was our first ever backpacking trip. That was like 11 years ago. And we literally like pulled up to the ranger station 10 minutes before it was about to close with no plan. And the ranger had to kind of like tell us a place to go. And then the most recent one, we just had a mishap and ended up on the wrong trail. But if not Iceland, then northern Canada might be an option. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. That would be cool. And actually, well, I guess the reason we were also thinking Iceland, besides like the obvious that it's really beautiful, is also because it's kind of a big name. You know, in recent years, it's been a huge travel destination. So whenever we do big trips, we also try to make them ones that can bring in new viewers, just so we can like grow the channel, and it makes it easier for us to do more places. Tessa Banks says, let me know how best to contact you. Would be happy to give you recommendations. Yeah, shoot us a message on our Facebook page. That's probably the best way. And, you know, I've been terrible about responding to messages and comments, but Bryan and Robby are really good about that. So one of us will definitely get back to you. So last night, I was actually at this sort of dance event. They had like electronic dance music. I'm not like a big EDM fan, but I mean, it's fun. But it was at a place called Otherworld, it's this new thing, which is like southeast of Columbus. And it's basically this huge art installation. It's an interactive art installation. It kind of feels like, I don't know, it's something else. But you go in and there's like all these different rooms with different art. Like there's one room with all these glowing poles and mirrors on all sides, so it feels like you're in a room of infinitely expanding poles that glow. There's rooms with like cloud-shaped inflatables, and another with like these weird, grotesque-looking sculptures, and there's a few like secret crawl spaces and stuff. But it was super cool. But when I was dancing, I realized all I was doing was just like doing kung fu moves, but kind of turning them into dance moves. Like I'm really obsessed with this hobby recently. I don't know why, but I was reading the Bruce Lee biography, and he was actually like a champion cha-cha dancer in Hong Kong. And apparently he would incorporate his kung fu moves into his cha-cha dancing too. I don't know. I feel like I'm a clumsy person and I don't have a very good sense of balance. So I'm hoping this kung fu thing at least makes me a little more aware of how my body moves. Anyway, Dennis Yo says, any adventures to new places or new activities other than hiking and camping? That's a good question. Well, we want to do a canoeing trip for sure, but that's not exactly what you're talking about. I think it would be cool to do another like road trip episode at some point or something of along those lines. And I mean, just in general, I think it would be cool to explore doing things besides just backpacking for Adventure Archives, so we can actually have like more diverse content. But it's always kind of a toss-up, because I think a lot of people come to us for the backpacking videos, and I think when we do other stuff, sometimes the views drop off. But at the same time, being able to do those other things also means like our channel is more flexible. Because I mean, an adventure does not necessarily only mean a backpacking adventure. So what I will say, actually, with regards to Iceland, I think if we did do Iceland, we would try to get 2 episodes from that. One would be a more traditional like backpacking journey, and the other would kind of just be like a road trip episode or something like that, where we explore more of the culture and the towns and the different places all around Iceland. And honestly, I think that'd be a good way to lead into the backpacking episode or something. Let's see. Oh, you don't have a Facebook account. Okay. I mean, you can just message us directly on Patreon too. That would work. Facebook is just kind of our go-to thing. Yeah, Jason said that already, I guess. Sorry, I'm kind of behind on these comments. But yeah, messaging us on Patreon will work. Shannon says, you and Robby should dress up and dance on the side of the street again. Oh, yeah, I totally forgot about that video. Yeah. You know, I feel like around Thanksgiving is when you will see shenanigans like that the most. Like, that's always when he posted that one video from a long time ago, I think, at some point, where I was like hiding in the roundabout. But yeah, I think the thing is, like, whenever me and Robby get together these days, there's like work to be done. Whereas like back in the day, maybe like, well, actually back in the day, he was living in Columbus for a while. So we had a lot more free time to just like do stupid stuff. Although actually, now that I think about it, I think we did that dancing video while we were editing, and we just needed to like take a break from the editing. Because it was like our brains were just kind of turning to mush and we had to get outside. So I might end the stream a little bit short. It's been going for like 41 minutes, so I'll go for another 5 or so minutes. But after that, I'm going to go check in with Robby actually and see if there's anything I can do for the episode. Because mostly we're just waiting on people's narration. But yeah, if there's any work I can get done before that, I might as well do that. You know, speaking of that dance video, though, it is kind of funny. Like, doing these shout outs is a really great way for us to have an outlet for our like stupid humor and creative energy. Because I think if we hadn't done Adventure Archives, I think one thing we always thought would be fun to do was like a YouTube channel where we just do random skits, like comedy skits or action videos or something like that. It's always fun for us to make little short videos like that. Honestly, like, I think Key and Peele, the show, is the closest thing I can think of as far as like the kinds of videos we enjoy making. So doing the shoutouts is kind of like an outlet for that. We get to put like a little bit of effort into some stupid skit and like put on some costumes, and it's kind of fun. Of course, then there are moments where like we find ourselves putting a little bit too much effort into the shoutouts, and we're like, we have to remember that we're not making a full-on production. We're just making like a silly comedy sketch. And it's better to like save time and get the episode out there than spend too much time on the shoutouts. Jason says, editing is every YouTuber's nightmare. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. There's so many YouTubers who hire other people to edit their videos. And like, as convenient as that sounds, I don't think I would do that because, like, yeah, sometimes editing can be a drag, but also like we have a very specific idea of what we want the video to be like. And yeah, I wouldn't trust anyone else to edit the videos. I don't even trust Robby sometimes, and he doesn't trust me because like we have very different tastes, and it kind of balances out when we both are editing. But I think if you hire out, it can change the way your story is told. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because like, especially if you don't share that vision with whoever's editing it, then that's a huge problem. And you know, I don't know. I feel like it would definitely not be an issue if we had a YouTube channel format that was like a little less intense. But obviously, every video we do is kind of like this full-scale production. We're creating like an hour-plus long video. Whereas most YouTubers are doing like 5 to 15-minute videos. But yeah, I don't know. Actually, that is another thing. Speaking of like branching out to other content or other activities, me and Robby were talking about like different channels or different videos we could be doing, in addition to Adventure Archives, because, you know, we're kind of thinking like it'd be good to creatively branch out and like create other content, kind of like diversify what we're creating, I guess, so to speak. Jason says, we all appreciate the effort that you guys make, and it shows in your work. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, there's moments where I'm like, we could definitely be working harder, but then there's moments where we just kind of crunched. It's like crunch time, and we get a lot done. But yeah, we were thinking of doing like, for example, like a commentary for like different shows and movies, kind of like Mystery Science Theater 3000. but it would just be like us talking in the audio, and you would sync it up with whatever you're watching, so that there's no like copyright infringement. So that was one option. And then for me personally, I would love to do some sort of a podcast. And like, I've mentioned this before, but I want to do a podcast with like different guests where we just talk about all sorts of things. But I'm also thinking maybe it would be better to just do a regular podcast with Robby, because I feel like we have a lot to talk about. I don't know. I feel like we can always have like a really good flowing conversation, and that might be interesting to explore. And it might also be better for like consistency to just have something that's simpler to do rather than worrying about a guest, especially because my idea was to like have a guest podcast where we're also like eating food. Because I really like I love eating scenes in movies, and I love like eating scenes where there's dialogue, but that's just like a lot of effort. But like, and I've been listening to this podcast called Dudes of Kung Fu, and it's just these two guys kind of BSing to each other, like, and they talk about Kung Fu, but it's kind of just them having a conversation. And I've realized I really enjoy it. And like, even when they repeat the same stories, I still enjoy listening to it. So I'm like, maybe me and Robby should just do a podcast. We actually used to do a podcast a long time ago, before the word podcast even existed. And it was called Weekly Waves. And this was like when I was a really young kid, before my voice changed. And we would just talk about stupid stuff and like video games and stuff. But I don't know, it'd be fun. Dan Vulcan says, absolutely, that's one of your major differentiations from the rest of the industry, real production value and effort. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that, for real. Invisible PXLS says, any thoughts about Breath of the Wild 2? Oh, yeah. I totally forgot. That's something we haven't talked about. But Breath of the Wild 2 looks amazing to me. I actually had it spoiled before I got to that part in the presentation that a new Zelda was in development. But I wasn't expecting to see like a whole trailer. But I love the way it looks. It looks very stylistic. And the fact that it's both Link and Zelda, like, I feel like in the trailer, they visually kind of look similar. So I'm wondering if maybe there's going to be cooperative play, like a 2-player thing. But I love that they're making Zelda kind of also like an adventurer in this. But also sort of that like creepy dark theme makes me think of like Majora's Mask. And I really like that too, that vibe. I've never actually beaten Majora's Mask, admittedly, but it looks amazing. Shannon Glenn says, you've developed a fan base, so people probably watch just about anything you put out. You guys are fun, and your fans have grown to like your personalities, even if you're not camping. Yeah, you know, that's a really good point. And that's kind of the thing, is like, I feel like with a lot of online personalities or whatever, people kind of latch on to just who the people are. And like, I think Adventure Archives will always be our bread and butter, but it would be fun to like create other things and be able to also like get some other viewers in. But yeah, no, thank you for that comment. Jason says, I wonder if there has been a study about the long-term effects of editing. That's a good question. Yeah, you know, editing is an interesting thing, because there's moments where like, and I noticed this especially with Robby, but there's like parts of the process where you just kind of have to go at it in a very mechanical way and like cut things down and trim them. But then there's a part later in the process where you have to really do it with some finesse and make sure like the scenes all blend together well and all the sound is blended and stuff like that. So, I mean, it really is like any art, I guess, where you start out coarser and then you go finer and polish things. But yeah. Yeah, Dennis, I was thinking a second channel for sure. It's like, it would definitely make sense to have a second channel if the content is not at all related to Adventure Archives. But it's also hard to like start up a completely new channel sometimes. But I don't know. These are just ideas floating around for now, but we'll see. Anyway, it's been about 50 minutes, so I think I'm going to end the stream there. Sorry, it's a bit of a shorter stream, but thank you everybody for joining. And yeah, we should have a regular stream on Monday, and actually, hopefully, the episode will be out by then. But yeah, keep an eye out for the episode. Hopefully it'll be up by the weekend, but my apologies if it's not. But it's going to be a good one. So, and then in the next weekly update, I'll probably have a few screenshots from the upcoming episode, so you can kind of get an idea for what to expect for that one. But yeah. Oh, and also I forgot to mention this, but we are probably going to be doing some sort of a public stream at some point We were originally thinking next Friday, but we're not entirely sure when it'll be yet because Robby has to work out some scheduling things. But yeah, keep an ear out for that too. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the weather if it's nice out. And if not, then at least you don't have to feel guilty about staying inside. Have a good one, everybody.